Okay, I think we should get started because Ingrida doesn't have a lot of time. So I'll just say a few words. So this whole second day was spent on topics of civil society organizations, how they can represent their interests towards the municipality or government agencies or even private investors. And we wanted to invite some international colleagues who can show us some good practices and especially tools and methods that can help civil society members represent their interests or just in general enhance civic engagement. So that was the kind of call that we sent out to our friends, and luckily we got some pretty good colleagues who are presenting their cases and methods today. And please welcome Ingrida first from Lithuania, and I'll give the floor to you, Ingrida.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the whole K-Monitor team, for the invitation to speak with you today. And my apologies for not being able to be there in person, but I hope at least in this way I can share where we are in Lithuania, what kind of data we have, and then if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch, either through colleagues at K-Monitor or directly. Happy to take the questions by email as well. I have one technical question before we start. I keep on hearing myself in the background, but I understand that I should just get used to it, no?
I'll mute ourselves, so I'll unmute ourselves when we have questions to you, okay?
Maybe just leave it as it is. Then at least it feels like I'm speaking to the group of people. Good.
It's really bothering you, and we'll mute
Good.
ourselves.
So with this short presentation, which I don't plan to take too much time for, the main goal is to share where we are with participatory budgeting as a tool to engage citizens in Lithuania, what kind of data we have, and then what type of main challenges we see related to this particular approach. And then I know that we still have some time for questions coming from your side. At any time, feel free to jump in case you have any questions or want to comment. Happy to take them during the presentation as well. So before we dig deeper into participatory budgeting in Lithuania, first, maybe briefly how we as Transparency International Lithuania became advocates for participatory methods in municipal activities. So for the past 10 years, since 2014, we've been conducting municipal transparency evaluations and rankings. Basically, we would go to different municipalities virtually by visiting their websites, and we would check for very specific information, like do we know who works at that municipality? Do the main heads, the main decision makers in the municipality, do they publish their declarations of interest? Do we understand how the public procurement processes look like? Do municipalities publish information for residents how to get engaged into decision making? So basically, I know that yesterday you spent some time talking about transparency audits. So in a way, this is a transparency audit by going to different websites and checking what type of information is available. As you can see on the bottom of this slide, the average score, which was 56 points out of 100 in 2014, it increased to 85 points in 2022. So municipalities understood why it's important to publish more information and started publishing more information online. However, one of the weakest links, weakest areas in all the municipalities was participation element, meaning how municipalities engage citizens into decision making on the local matters. And then we started looking for ways, what is it that we can recommend to the municipalities to try, what are the innovative tools that others are thinking about, and then how to facilitate this process in municipality. And that coincided with the wave of participatory budgets reaching our region. Poland was already implementing them, Latvia and Lithuania as well. And then it was quite a good timing to see how participatory budgets could be adapted at local level, because this is the way how citizens can express their views, how they can actually get involved actively. And municipalities are the closest to the citizens, so that's a good way, a good place to start and to reach out to the residents. For those of you who are not that familiar with the term participatory budgeting, so that we are on the same page when talking about it, it's the way to decide on the use of public funds together with the community. So that community could be municipality or school or any other institution, looking at different examples all across the world. And they provide ideas and choose their favorite ones by voting. I stopped hearing you, but I assume that's fine, right?
We also had a little bit of reverb, so that's why I muted ourselves. Sorry.
Okay, good. Wait. How should I come back? Here. Good. And then they choose their favorite ones by voting. And then this community, whether that is municipality or school, they commit to implement those ideas in practice. In short, very simplified, that's how the process looks like. In the beginning, everyone is submitted to propose ideas. Then those ideas should be turned into projects, meaning that there has to be some sort of the selection process, because not all the ideas are possible to implement, depending on the budget, depending on the technical requirements, and so on. So then municipal representatives are also very active in this stage, consulting citizens and explaining them what needs to be reviewed in the idea in order for it to be implementable. Because when the project is developed to be presented for the larger community, they really have to be implementable in the way that they are. Because the worst thing that could happen is that if the project is presented for voting and people are voting for it, and then it's selected for the implementation, then if municipality realizes that it's not possible to implement it, it could be a really heavy hit for the reputation of the municipality and also for the trust in the eyes of the citizens. So this process is very important. Basically, the projects that go to voting, it had to be made sure that those projects could be implemented later on. Then the projects are being implemented, and then the other cycle starts again like this. So where we are with participatory budgeting in municipalities. In 2018, we had 1 municipality. Now we have 52 out of 60 who implement participatory budgeting. 3 municipalities plan to do this in the near future. So basically, we have the majority of all the municipalities in the country. How we know this? Every year we send information requests to all 60 municipalities, and we ask them various questions about participatory budgeting in their municipality. So we have data-driven results for these facts. And what we also know is that there is no one municipality who started participatory budgeting earlier and then made longer than 1 year break. Like, for example, if they decided that this is not worth it, or that they don't like the tool, or that they don't want to implement participatory budgeting in the environment. So this is not the case. The longest break that there was 1 year. And sometimes this happens, especially if municipalities select bigger projects for implementation. Sometimes they need this additional year to implement the projects, to share the results, and then to start a new cycle after a break of one year. In total, since 2018, residents have been invited to jointly allocate approximately 14.4 million euros. This is quite a large amount of money. However, if we look at the different municipalities and the budgets that they allocate for participatory budgeting, it doesn't even reach 1% of the budget of the municipality. So percentage-wise, this is not the largest amount of budget that goes to participatory budgeting initiative. Looking at the amount of funding contributed to different ideas. So it varies depending on the municipality's size. As you know, some municipalities are smaller and some are larger. So ideas could be from 5 to 180,000 euros. And then each municipality decides what's the budget that they want to contribute to participatory budgeting. And then over the last year, 6 million euros were dedicated for this initiative, budget-wise. In total, what we know is that around 160,000 residents, this number is with the question mark because some count the numbers of residents in a better way, some in worse, and that's one of the areas that require more improvement and better look at, because we do not have data of quality when it comes to the participation in voting of the residents. So this 158,000 is with a small asterisk on top. And they proposed 727 ideas, and 172 projects were selected for implementation. And you might wonder, what type of projects are those? Like, what are citizens concerned about, or what do they suggest? So we looked at all the projects that were selected for implementation, and the largest group is environmental upkeep projects. Installation of playgrounds and sports fields is the second largest, and also outdoor lighting is quite a popular group of ideas. So what you can see from this list is that the residents are mainly interested in how to improve their living environment and how to have services that they do not have in their environment. These are some pictures illustrating some of those winning ideas after they have been implemented. So as you can see, there are some statues in the park that they wanted to have, some sports playgrounds. This whole bridge has been built in one of the municipalities as part of the participatory budgeting initiative, and others as well. Looking at in general, participatory budgeting in Lithuania first started in a wider sense at schools, and then municipalities really adjusted and became popular users of participatory budgeting as well. So we also checked how many municipalities are looking for ways how to engage the schools that are under control of the municipality into participatory budgeting exercises. So this number increased from 9 last year to 28 schools now. So that's a very positive trend. However, one of the things to keep in mind is how to ensure that this initiative is implemented in a high quality, and it's not just a checkbox exercise for school representatives. Ourselves, we supported around 80 schools in the country to implement participatory budgeting, and that's the map of all of the schools that we helped to implement participatory budgeting. Basically, to our estimates at the moment, we have nearly 10% of all the schools in the country who tested participatory budgeting with their community members. And here you can see some of the photos from those events and workshops with the participants and the ideas that they selected for implementation as well. Basically, if I were to summarize, I would say that the most important things related to the implementation of participatory budgeting that need better attention are related to a few things. So one is for municipalities to clearly understand what's their theory of change and what do they want to achieve with participatory budgeting. Then having this It's really important to have the data that proves if you are succeeding in reaching this goal or not. And I mentioned already that the data of residents taking part in participatory budgeting really needs to be in a higher quality. So that's one of the areas that need to improve. Second is the way to engage those citizens that are not the usual suspects, that are not the ones who already get engaged by other activities into municipalities' work, but to really look wider and to think about more diverse groups. And third, I already showed you this circle of participatory budgeting. Usually we stop here. At the voting phase, the best ideas are selected for implementation. Then there is some silence break, and then we hear about the implementation of the ideas. And then we start all over again. So it would be great to have more information during the implementation phase as well, so that those who submitted ideas understand that there is a public procurement process happening, the works will start soon, the contractor has been selected, and so on and so forth, so that citizens can really be engaged during the whole process of participatory budgeting, and that it really proves that first, the money doesn't come from somewhere, but it comes from the budget of the municipality, and the objects in the environment doesn't appear like this, but that you have a whole process of implementation that needs to happen. So I stop here, and thank you so much for your attention, and happy to take your questions now.
Thank you very much. This was great. Can you hear us? Just to check.
Yes.
Good. I will monopolize starting the questions, and then I will give the floor to others. So yesterday we heard two types of criticisms towards participatory budgeting. One came from a mayor of a district of Budapest, and he said that he has lost a little bit of enthusiasm in PB because he feels that the initiators of projects where the idea comes from, they don't really take ownership afterwards. So they just, so after the voting, the municipality is kind of left with the projects, and it doesn't really improve engagement, and it doesn't really have the desired effect that he looks for in participatory budgeting. Did you have any feedbacks like that? Do you have any sort of that experience like that?
That's a very good question. From the research on participatory budgets, one of the formats that seems to be least impactful is having online participatory budgeting, meaning that all the process takes place online. The ideas are submitted, then municipal representatives comment on them, then citizens vote, and then the ideas are selected for implementation. Then we can all understand that the interest and involvement of the citizens is much lower in comparison if you were to come to the in-person meeting at the municipality, to take part in deliberations and in workshops together with other citizens. If you were to be invited to smaller groups with the other residents that you do not know, and to get to know municipal representatives in person as well, like to really have this in-person dynamics, then it's much more different than having everything online without any in-person interaction. So that's one of the aspects that usually help to increase the engagement of citizens into the whole process. And then the second aspect that we see in other countries as well is that and what we are actually seeing in the Lithuanian schools, we tested the approach of having a specific team for the participatory budgeting. So for example, at Lithuanian schools in the capital of Vilnius, the theme is sustainability. Meaning that students, when they present their ideas, they really have to be aware of the sustainability element and how the idea is sustainable in one way or another. And by this, you also increase the creativity of, in this case, school pupils, because they really think outside of the box instead of thinking about the regular items or equipment that they would need in their school. We also know that in Europe, Lisbon and Portugal, they use participatory budgeting specifically for environmental challenges. And then they have this theme for participatory budgeting there. So I would say that for the better engagement of citizens, the theme could also be an option. But my first comment when it comes to the format of the participatory budgeting, I would say is the most important, right? Really to think about the ways how citizens are being engaged and how otherwise it's very difficult to expect higher levels of engagement if everything is behind the curtains in a way.
Thank you. I would like to ask if you have any information on how long does it take to implement the projects in general?
Could you please repeat your question once again?
Yeah, how long does it take in general to implement the projects which win on the voting?
So on the municipal level, municipalities usually spend the whole year for the whole cycle, from the idea presentation until the implementation and preparation for the next year. So usually that's a 1-year exercise. In schools, we usually spend 1 semester at the maximum. Usually we fit from 2 to 4 months for this exercise. So it also really depends on the size of municipality, because, for example, the capital Vilnius, when they first experimented with participatory budgeting, after they received the ideas, they needed an additional year to implement them, because they realized that this is taking much longer and that the projects are bigger than in the smaller municipalities. So in certain cases, that takes some time. But what we also know is that usually participatory budgeting initiatives are being prioritized so that they do not take too much time, because residents cannot wait for 3 years to see the children playground in the environment if they voted for it. And if the commitment is to have it done by the end of the year, then they really want to see it by the end of the year and not 1 year later. So it's really important to manage this communication with the residents as well, so that what you promise, you deliver. Otherwise, they lose trust in the institution as well. And that even becomes worse than it was previously. So I would say that municipalities really have to be cautious about this, because then if you don't want to implement the initiative in the high quality manner, then it's better not to do it at all. Because if you engage citizens and then if they feel that the process is not understandable, too bureaucratic, or that they see things that they don't understand, or that municipal representatives interact in a rude way, they will be even less likely to trust the institution than they were before this exercise. So I would say to be cautious about this fact, and then really to, if you decide to implement it, to implement in a high quality way.
Hi, Ingrida. One question from me. We had yesterday the mayor of Budapest here, who was also sharing some insights about participatory budgeting in Budapest. And we touched this topic that you were mentioning as well as crucial, that you have like a real involvement of citizens, and it's diverse, so it's not only those who are easy to reach through whatever social media, but it gets a broad social support. And he was complaining that, well, you cannot spend equal amount on communication as the amount you spend on the projects, which brings me to the question to you. Do you have any figures how much municipalities in Lithuania, compared, let's say, to the budgets they directly have for the project, spent on communicating it and involving people into the entire process? Thanks.
What we see is that those municipalities that are in a way, good case examples. They really have dedicated staff members in charge of coordinating this initiative. Usually, those municipal staff members are the ones who are already in charge of community engagement activities. So it's not like it's suddenly a very new function to many of them. And they see this as a way to even better understand their community members with this particular initiative than before. This does involve a lot of communication activities as such, like, for example, being available not only from 8 to 5, which is the regular working hours at the municipal offices, but to understand that citizens also usually work from 8 to 5. So you have to make yourself available even earlier in the morning or later in the evening or during the lunch break, or to find ways how to consult them online. Like, really to think about the target group that you are trying to achieve and to make yourself flexible. So that's a number one thing that all the municipal representatives say, that you really have to make yourself flexible. Second, you really have to think where your target group is. Can you reach them through phone, online meetings, or do you need to go at the local supermarkets or to the local parks or to the local libraries in order to share the information that they can take part in participatory budgeting? So really, not the ones that are managing to reach higher numbers of residents are the ones that get out of their office and really engage with the community and share the message there. So in this way, I would say that it does involve quite a lot of communication activities, but they do not need to be separate for participatory budgeting only, because usually the persons that are in charge of community mobilization or citizen engagement are the same ones. So it's their mandate as such already.
I don't know if you still have time. Let us know if you have to go. I don't see a lot of questions. I do have one more. Another criticism that was yesterday directed at the mayor is, and I see that this comes up in your experience as well, a little bit at least, that participatory budgeting is used for things that should be already covered by the municipality. And in your example, it was playgrounds and lighting, public lighting things. Is there any good practice that you can share where they manage to separate the truly participatory aspects from the mandatory tasks of a municipality?
That's a very good question. I personally think that we don't need participatory budgeting for like this whole process for the specific tasks that already have a process in themselves, and it's clear how to implement them. So that's why I mentioned that municipalities really need to figure out the theory of change, what they want to achieve, particularly with participatory budgeting, so that it's adding benefits to the other programs, because it's not going to solve all the issues in the municipality, but it's also clear how to measure the success of this particular tool as participatory budgeting. One of the good examples that we saw in Lithuania is that, for example, through the first initiatives of participatory budgeting, a particular municipality understood that citizens are really interested in having children playground in their environment, and that they didn't know that there is another process particularly designed for them to submit their requests for children playgrounds in the municipality. So what they did, they actually directed citizens to the other platform. They said, okay, if you are interested in children playgrounds, please go here, because you don't need to go through the whole participatory budgeting exercise to indicate your request to have a children playground in your neighborhood. The other municipality actually used participatory budgeting as a tool to connect citizens to the strategic planning of the municipality. They said, we see that you are interested in this exercise. Maybe you would be interested in participating in strategic planning of our city, because here you can actually also decide on much bigger issues than in participatory budgeting. So they made a link and managed to to attract much more people to the process that very few knew about this. So I would say that it really depends on what's the goal, like why municipalities need participatory budgeting, and what added value they think that it can bring, and constantly review if this is happening or not. Otherwise, if it's not being reviewed, I'm just afraid that it's going to be another regular tool without a clear understanding what kind of added value it brings to the municipality.
Thank you. I'm really not trying to push my luck here, but one last question. So it's an incredible number, 52 out of 60 municipalities. Do you have any examples where they actually opened up the normal budget, the yearly budget process to participation instead of allocating some money to participatory budgeting?
I'm not sure I heard your second part of the question.
So instead of allocating money to participatory budget, do you know any cases where instead they used the yearly municipal budget and made that process a bit more participatory?
So a few municipalities, as I said, found the link how to attract citizens to this strategic planning, which is about the bigger parts of the budget. But in general, that's the area that definitely needs more improvement. And that might relate to Budapest as well, because not many municipalities in the beginning present the whole budget of the municipality and then what percentage this amount of the participatory budgeting makes, so that citizens have this financial literacy element. And this is something that we do at schools, and we really see the added value of having this conversation about the budget, the sources of the income, the expenditure types, and then understanding how this small amount of participatory budgeting really looks like in the bigger picture. So that's one of the areas that also need to improve.
Thank you so much. And if any of the audience members have more questions, I'll forward them to you in writing. And thank you so much for presenting and being here for us.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, and hopefully see you soon. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.